Us this morning, our forensic psychiatrist and body language expert, Dr. Carole Lieberman. She's up early in Los Angeles. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Appreciate your time, your valuable time. Ooh, we're getting down to it. It's Tuesday. It's closing arguments on Friday. Carole, been waiting to talk to you because I want to hear what you think about the expert yesterday, Dr. David Spiegel, a.k.a. the Doc Brown Back to the Future character that was up there, entertaining, as Chanley said, to some extent, but maybe annoying the panel of jurors. Before you chime in case y'all missed it, let's take a look at some highlights from the doctor on the stand. Carole, your thoughts? I mean, it seems very honest, but unique. Your thoughts?
Very honest. Well, it really, as an expert witness myself, I understand what he was thinking and what he was going through, but one of the rules 101 of being an expert witness, you're not combatant with the opposing attorney during cross. And he wasn't great on direct. There were lots of things, lots of problems, but cross is where he really fell apart. And I think that the jury saw that. I mean, he just said that, for example, I guess one of the worst things is when he turned to the judge and said, "Do I have to answer that?" When the attorney asked him a question. I mean, certainly as an expert witness, you have to answer the questions of the attorney, even though you may not want to. But he just, he based things. It was ridiculous. Some of the things, like talking about how he based some of his opinion on Pirates of the Caribbean, and he was obviously given some wrong information about things. He talked about that he thought that was vomitous, in that picture when it was ice cream. There were a number, he talked about earpieces. And you would think if he planned to talk about earpieces as one of the examples to prove that Johnny Depp has lost cognition through drugs and alcohol, you would think he would have researched how prevalent this is in the entertainment industry, all kinds of things like that. There were lots of holes in his, and it was not just the holes, it's his attitude, his sort of like, I know everything, don't you dare, question me. I'm a professor, don't question me.
Carole, yesterday were very excited because we were under the impression that Team Heard was going to call Johnny Depp to the stand in their case in chief for a few targeted questions surrounding his attorney's statements, which are the basis of their countersuit. And one would think they would want to clarify Johnny Depp's role in the creation of those statements, get him to reiterate that he didn't write them and wasn't engineering it, because that makes sense that he would have been apprised by his attorney that these were going to be made. Are you surprised they didn't take that risk to bring Johnny back? And he may come back this morning. We don't know. It was sort of left open. Elaine Bredehoff at the end of the day yesterday said, we're not sure what we're going to do in terms of Johnny Depp. Your thoughts about bringing Depp back for Amber Heard's team?
Well, he was such a good witness, in contrast, because he was so authentic. And I don't think that they would necessarily want more of that authenticity on the stand. And also I think it was a matter of time that maybe they thought they needed to save what they had to be able to either use it on him when the other side brings him on, or for some other witness.
A little bit, but you've testified.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to watch. I mean, he is coming back, we understand. Johnny Depp's team is going to bring him back as likely their final witness. Carole, to you first on this one. A refresher, we got to hear both sides, or both versions of the story from Johnny Depp and Amber Heard about the bottle story. What do you pick up on as both tell their versions of the story, and who? Because one of them is lying. Who's telling the truth?
Well, first of all, Johnny, the way he, talk about body language, the way he described what happened was very much, was very real. In other words, it was like it did happen, or else he couldn't have been able to describe it in that way, that well, and with that body language. But and remember his testimony where he said, I almost felt like this was the closest I came to a nervous breakdown. So this was obviously one of the biggest traumas of his life. And he wouldn't be forgetting about it or making it up. I think there were three things that were wrong with this. Not that I am an orthopedic surgeon, but the way he described the way Johnny's hand was on the table was not the way that Johnny described it. That was number one. So it seemed like he was starting with the wrong premise. Another part was that he didn't take into consideration enough that Johnny told Dr. Kipper in the driveway that how it happened and with the bottle and so on. And thirdly, if he was going to try to make his points, he should have done a reconstruction, it had an exhibit to demonstrate why he was saying what he was trying to say.
Which Camille Vasquez brought out on cross-examination, asking him that question. Carole, Johnny Depp coming back, being the last witness that the jury hears from, likely in this case, assuming that Amber Heard's team doesn't put on a rebuttal, that will give them an opportunity to go back and hit the highlights one more time. And then it does come down, does it not, to who do I believe more if I'm a juror? And I would think huge advantage to have Johnny Depp being the last voice. Your thoughts?
Yes. This case has gone on for so long, and there's been a fair amount of repetition. And I think the jury is tired by now. And so I think a lot of it, consciously or unconsciously, is going to come down to likability and credibility. And the witnesses that they remember, emotionally, in other words, believing them, not believing them, and liking them or not liking them. So I think it's important to have Johnny Depp be one of the last witnesses. And you as a psychiatrist, you feel when you're with a patient or with somebody in the room, just like in the jury box, in the courtroom, you feel whether the person is telling the truth or not. It's not just the words. You feel whether it's the truth.
Absolutely. And in many courtrooms. And that's the one thing that, yes, we have a front row seat to justice here on Court TV, but it's not as good a seat as the one in the courtroom. And the jury has the best seat in the courtroom. And Melissa, Carole, in the bottle story, the one issue that Johnny Depp may have is that he told his doctor that treated him that he wanted to protect Amber Heard, is what he would later say. Is that an issue? He did have the utterance to Kipper, his doctor, right away, and told him, because he's the personal doctor, said, yeah, Amber threw a bottle at me. But what about this other story that the doctor was treating him and believing at the time? Does that hurt Johnny Depp?
Well, I'm sure Amber's attorneys are going to try to make a lot of hay out of that. That was the truth. But, who is it more likely that he's going to tell the truth to? Some doctor in an emergency room, or his own doctor who he's had for quite a long time and who knew Amber and knew their situation? I think it's much more believable that he told the truth to Dr. Kipper.
Brings up Carole, and there were a few questions that she didn't have answers to. For someone who is entrenched in Hollywood, one might think she would have known, some basic things. And then her comparison, saying Amber Heard was going to have the same trajectory of Jason Momoa. Sorry, but your thoughts overall on her effectiveness or lack of?
Well, I agree with what was said about her. There were times, for example, one of the times she was asked a question, she talked about chatting with her friend or colleague at William Morris, and just like it seemed like just a casual conversation, asking about these kinds of things. And yes, it didn't bring the specificity with charts or graphs and even the way she said how she picked the people that she compared Amber to. Johnny's team, Johnny's attorney, criticized her on that maybe these aren't people who really were on the same level as Amber and so on. But other than the content, she was a more relatable expert. I think that the jury wouldn't have disliked her. They might have found her lacking in terms of what she was actually able to contribute. But she seemed, the way that she spoke to them and she presented well.
Yeah, I totally. And you feel that she was a good person. And going back to that feeling, I'm sure that the energy that she had was different than the others. We're about 18 minutes away from day 21 of testimony, and outside the courthouse, in Virginia. The fans have gathered, as they do every day. The crew's a little bit smaller today, the crowd, if you will, because it is raining outside, though. Here's a live picture of the people waiting for Johnny Depp and Amber Heard to make their way into the courthouse each day. Of course, this is the scenario. And the crowds, frankly, today are a little smaller because of the weather, but the crowds have been large and growing over the 20 days. More and more people attracted to this case, watching it online, watching it here on Court TV, and then making the pilgrimage to Virginia so that they can take part. Carole, who are these people? You're an expert on human behavior.
Well, I think a lot of them are Johnny Depp fans, diehard Johnny Depp fans. I think some of them didn't necessarily watch a lot of his films, but they feel strongly about the case. The fact that he believed that he was abused and or don't like Amber Heard or things like that. But I think most of them are probably just Johnny Depp fans, and they want to support him. They want to show him that there are people who love him, even if Amber Heard doesn't.
All right, as we see Amber Heard arriving in the Ram pickup truck with the tinted windows coming from the other side so that she doesn't have to obviously go right by all of the Depp fans. We will watch this arrival, then we'll get a break in here, but we want to use this opportunity to thank Dr. Carole Lieberman for her valuable time this morning.